Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to another of our Managing Your Small Business Beyond the Pandemic webinar series number 110, episode 110. That goes back to March 18th of 2020. So good afternoon. My name is Kelly Bearden. I'm the director of the CSU Bakersfield Small Business Development Center. And we're proud to be presenting this 110th webinar. And got a great show today, got a great topic, something we've talked about the last 2 months. We're going to get the details, we're going to get the eligibility, we're going to get the nuts and bolts of everything that we've talked about the California Dream Fund and more. So what's new today? What's new today on April 20th, 2022? Well, as we've been talking about the last couple of months, the California Dream Fund is rolling and it is progressing significantly now. So we have the wonderful information that is going to be available and be discussed today by the last time I could potentially use this phrase, the Grand Poobah. The Grand Poobah, Clark is with us, executive director of that entire SBDC region. So he will be here and be discussing all things California Dream Fund. In addition, I'm going to discuss a little bit about some news that SBA released a couple of weeks ago about the Community Advantage pilot program. And it is getting some changes and it is getting another couple of years added. So we'll talk a little bit about some mainstream SBA funding through the through the SBA Community Advantage program. Our current microgrant program that has been offering $2,500 grants to qualified and eligible small businesses in Kern County has had some changes, and we actually got an update just a couple of days ago that we'll discuss. The EIDL increase and EIDL reconsiderations are still open. So if you have done anything along those lines, as far as wanting to do an increase, you have an existing EIDL, you can get it increased. And if you were turned down initially, you can actually request reconsideration and hopefully get that turned around. Those programs are still open and still viable, and they are still producing loans for 30 years at 3.7% interest, 3.75% interest fixed for 30 years. Don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to say that. So we're also talk a little bit about the State Small Business Credit Initiative that we've been talking about. It's on its way and coming soon. We'll update our open pandemic relief programs. We'll take your questions. So please go to the Q&A box and put in any Q&A. Maureen will probably be popping, our executive producer for Webinar Wednesday, Maureen Busher-Dang, will be popping in some information in the chat as we go along today. So we'll take your questions, but first, a poll. And as we've been known to do, we're kind of all around the charts, all around the board, a very simple poll this time, one very simple question, not four like oftentimes. And there it is for you. What is your current business status? So are you currently in business? Do you want to start a business? Are you in business, but maybe would like to start another or different business? Or other, if there's an other definition that fits your current business status, you can pop that in the chat box and we'll pick that up in a little bit. So we're looking at today, what is your current business status? Are you in business? Would you like to start a business? Maybe you're in business and you want to do another business or some other kind of business. And then the other is other. If it doesn't fit, potentially, maybe, I don't know, maybe you're a nonprofit, maybe you work for somebody who's actually requesting this information today. So we do have 60% of you participating in our very easy to answer question today about your current business status. If you're in business, you want to start a business, you're already in business, but hey, maybe you want to start another different type of business or some other status related to your business. So with 66% of you participating, we're going to conclude the poll today and end it right now and share the results with you. And you've surprised me. You've surprised me, Webinar Wednesday audience. 70% of you are in business. I figured with the Dream Fund and the opportunities that are available to start a business, that would have been significantly higher, but just 10% of you are looking to potentially start a business. Another 10% of you are in business, but are looking to start another business. And strangely enough, another 10% of you answered other. So thank you for that. And thank you for shaking me up a little bit there, surprising me. Always like that. So let's move along. So let's go to our current status and action required for some of the key pandemic relief programs that are already out there. As we have been telling you for several weeks now, if you want to participate in the California Dream Fund, to send an email to the CA SBDC at ucmerced.edu. And since we'll be discussing this much more today, we won't probably mention that. You do know that the Kern County Micro Grant Program is open, and we'll talk a little bit about the changes before we get to the Dream Fund, a little bit about the changes that are happening. And as we're finally getting to the point to where, you know, a lot of these state programs, other programs as well, they change, you know, even after they're open. And we found that with the California Dream Fund. I think we're finding it now with the Kern County Micro Grant Program. So it is open, and we'll talk about a couple of the changes in a second. Mono County has a grant and forgivable loan program. It is open. I suggest you talk to one of the two Jeffs that are available to help you and assist you on that particular program if you are in Mono County. And that would be Mr. Jeff Simpson, the Economic Development Manager there, or Jeff Lucas, who is the consultant working on assisting you with that Mono County grant and forgivable loan program. We mentioned the EIDL loan for increases and reconsiderations. The employee retention credit is open. That has been open retroactively and still remains open as far as the period of the end of the third quarter of 2021. It closed. So for the fourth quarter of 2020 and up through quarter 3 of 2021, you still can apply for that retroactive credit, where you can actually get a check in your hand rather than have it work for future years' taxable income. The City of Bakersfield Restart Loan to Grant Program is open, and we suggest that you talk to the good folks at Access Plus Capital, or you can see the Kern Women's Business Center for more information on the City of Bakersfield Restart Loan to Grant Program. We've been talking a lot about the State Small Business Credit Initiative, which is essentially about $1.2 billion that's coming to California in a variety of different ways. About half of it is going to the Pollution Control Authority for loan assistance to small businesses. Half of it's going to the iBank in California. And there's also some that are going for venture funds. And so it'll be kind of interesting to see the venture funds, how those shake out and where they go. There could be some of that money available for the California Dream Fund or other ways. So we're hoping really to have a significant program on that in May when more details are kind of available. But it's something that should be on your radar if you're looking for small business funding down the road. So also we have the California Relief Grant Program that remains open. And the California Relief Grant Program is actually closed to new applications. But when I say it remains open, because they're still funding. And we talked to a client this week, an individual who started the application process early on and bailed halfway through it, says he didn't get more than his contact information in and decided not to apply, and was actually in the last week or so contacted by Lindustry to see if they wanted to complete their application. So if you actually were confused, if you had some occurrence that happened in your business and you started that application process for the California Relief Grant Program, recall this program through Lindustry.com provided small businesses $5,000, $15,000, or $25,000, depending on the size of your business, in the form of a non-repayable grant. So whereas they ceased taking new applications last year, probably about 6 months ago, if you started the application process at all, I would go back and see if you have any missed emails from Lindustry.com And if you still would like to apply, go through that particular process. PPP forgiveness is, still open, even if you've gone past the 10 months from the end of your covered period. You could have started to get some actual payments or invoices from your bank for repaying that. Because remember, the PPP was a great program, but it was not a grant program initially. You had to go spend the money appropriately in the proper uses, and then you had to formally request for forgiveness to get that loan actually changed to a grant status. So, but if you haven't done so and you've even started making payments, there's still a process and still an opportunity to continue and to go through that and to end all that. More restaurant revitalization funding. Am I talking about this again? The House did pass that bill we talked about last week, and it is at the Senate, so we'll see. So maybe some of those that applied for the restaurant revitalization funding and did not get funded at that time still might have the opportunity to go through. Okay, the Community Advantage Pilot Program. It's a program that started a couple of years ago and actually is designed to actually provide underserved and underappreciated rural veterans, people of color, minority individuals, etc. Rural areas, maybe even some low wealth communities, access because of the historic barriers that they have faced. So the Community Advantage Pilot Program are loans up to $250,000. SBA provides a guarantee. If you're familiar, if you've heard us talk about the SBA 7A program, their guaranteed loan program, this is pretty much similar to what that is. It's a variation of that program, just redesigned and repurposed. It has, a variety of different fees. The interest rates on it are not 3.75% like I had talked about earlier. Interest rates generally actually will run to about up to 6 points over the prime rate. Prime rate, I believe, is around 3.5% right now, and probably trending upward as we speak. So collateral and personal guarantees for smaller size loans, 25,000 and less. The lender is not required to take collateral. And remember, these are loans made by a lender or a bank, and then they get a guarantee from the SBA, which provides them the incentive and the wherewithal in order to do that. A simple underwriting process and criteria. So what are the changes that actually came out with? And actually, these last two slides were the changes. It was extended. So the Community Advantage Pilot Program is going to be extended through the end of the federal fiscal year in 2024 to provide more certainty. There was a moratorium, a 4-year lender moratorium that kind of slowed the process down. They're increasing the level to $350,000 from $250,000. And they're removing the restrictions to keep individuals with criminal backgrounds from applying. They also have a simplified underwriting collateral requirement for borrowers. They will be introducing additional abilities for lenders to make revolving lines potentially, and maybe meet the needs of those credit line programs that are out there and some other things. But these are going to be lenders that are generally going to be CDFIs, your community development financial institutions, some community development lenders, mission-based lenders, and others that are going to be providing this access to capital. There's just a little bit on our 1.1 billion. We can talk about that later, but let's move on now to the Kern County Small Business Microgrant Program. In doing this for 110 webinars now, focusing on pandemic relief and recovery for small businesses, it's always been our intent to look at the intent. It's been our intent to look at intent of a program. So the intent of the microgrant program was to provide $2,500 for the smallest, neediest, and potentially the most vulnerable micro enterprises, those that missed out on the California relief grant that we talked about earlier. So on this particular program, Kern County applied and actually received, and we've been working on a significant number countywide, us and 3 other nonprofit entities, to get this word out and to get these funds out to the smallest and micro grants. So people ask us, what are some of the reasons that people have been declined for the program? At the SBDC, we received over 100 applications that we are processing. And I could tell you from our standpoint, the biggest decline is to look at the eligibility on the front page of the 2-page application. Generally, these are our most significant reasons for at least us not recommending. We don't decline at the SBDC. The county is in charge of approving or declining. We just accept the application based on eligibility, provide a recommendation or non-recommendation based on those 6 causes. So the main causes that you could be declined for the current small business micro grant program is that you received the California Relief Grant Program. That is an automatic disqualifier. Also, there's some confusion on sales on what is a micro business. A micro business is one that has sales of $50,000 or less, not one that has net income of $50,000 or less. So if you've exceeded the $50,000 threshold in sales, that is a potential decline from the county. It is not your major income source. So if you are actually carrying on a job and doing a side gig, let's say you have a 40-hour-a-week job and you do Uber driving on the weekend. That is not your major source of income, and it is subject to actually be an ineligible application then. And then there are others, a number of other eligibility issues, but those are the 3 big ones that we see. So this week we came out with the state of California, the Office of the Small Business Advocate came out with a new regulation a couple of days ago. So these things do change on the fly. Having accepted over 100 applications, they've asked us to now go back and to look at micro businesses and to have them be evidence that they have been impacted by at least a 10% reduction in revenue from 19 to 20 taxable years, or you can have a signed attestation and narrative describing your significant impact. So what does that mean? Probably the easiest is to say, if that in true happened, that I did have a 10% reduction in sales from 2019 by 2020 because of potentially government shutdowns, we were all at home, etc. So maybe just a statement and signing that attestation to that. So that's something that changed this week. So today we're going to get into the California Dream Fund program. I mentioned that we would have the Grand Poobah on, and somebody asked me, what does a Grand Poobah look like? And I couldn't tell you what a Grand Poobah looks like. I could only tell you what a Grand Poobah does not look like. But I do like this. Thank you, Maureen, for sending me this for a different reason, but I do like the California State University Bakersfield Roadrunner colors, or very close to their colors, for that headdress. And that brings me today to our special guest. And our special guest today is a guy that I've known and respected for a totally long time. And his name is Kurtis Clark. Grew up on a family ranch in the foothills of the San Joaquin Valley, learned entrepreneurship at an early age, and subsequently has started and operated 3 small businesses. In 2000, after a fairly long managerial career in the grocery industry, he became an adjunct professor for 3 community college. In 2003, he was hired as the SBDC director for the Valley Sierra SBDC, covering the northern part of the San Joaquin Valley. Kurt has consulted over 1,000 businesses, trained a lot of them, developed systems, profitable operations, and accessing capital during that period of time. Much to the pleasure of many of us in the SBDC network, he was hired by UC Merced as the executive director of the Central California SBDC region, overseeing 14 county service area that I describe in about 110 webinars now. In 2021, the Central California SBDC provided over 20 hours of no-cost business consulting and training to over 8,000 individuals. Kurt earned his BA in business management from St. Mary's College. Didn't realize he was a Gale until I saw this. And then he got his master in public administration from CSU Stanislaus. Kurt and his wife Donna enjoy 2 adult children and 4 grandchildren. Kurt, it's great to have you on. I can't believe it took this long, but thank you for joining us. It's wonderful to have you here. Take it away.
Well, thank you, Kelly. Thank you for having me on this. Just hard to believe that 110 of these webinars, and you've done such a fantastic job, you and Maureen, over the last 2+ years of the pandemic. And I think it's safe to say that we're on the other side finally. Yes, we will have flare-ups and other issues that we'll continue to work with our small businesses to get through, but I think we can all safely say that we're headed towards better times. So specifically, I wanted to share a document with you, if I can, on the California Dream Fund. And I'll bring that up right now. Hopefully everyone can see that. And just kind of quickly go over the regulations of the program from the state of California. Start with kind of an overview of what the California Dream Fund program is. It's a grant program to help establish seed entrepreneurship. And those grants are either $5,000 or $10,000. And they are specifically for new business startups. And yes, the requirements do allow the beginning of that business startup process to have occurred as far back as July 1st, 2019. But the key here is that the business is not fully legally operational. And this grant program is to help those entrepreneurs overcome any barriers they may be experiencing to getting their business up and running, fully established and successful. A couple of quick facts. The state only allows one grant per business, regardless of how many owners there might be or how many of those owners may choose to go through the training. You can have more than one person from the business go through the CDF training program. And the grant funds can only be used for business expenses. Oh, and only one grant per person. So if a person wanted to start multiple businesses, the state is only allowing one grant per person to try to get the grants out to as many people as possible. Each grantee must agree, once they receive the grant, to continue to work with the California SBDC, Central California SBDC, and they must agree to continue reporting quarterly as to how they're using those funds and the progress that they are experiencing or not in developing their business. Hopefully they continue to take advantage of ongoing counseling, no-cost counseling from the SBDC and other resource partners, and continue to stay engaged with the training programs that SBDC is offering. Well, what are some of the more details involved? Are you eligible? So most of the eligibility criteria are fairly straightforward, fairly simple. In order to know for sure, we require that a person who's interested first request services from the SBDC, and that's super simple, it's confidential. All SBDCs require that part of the process before we can provide services. So once you request services, then we do a little deeper dive, a little triage to determine, are you at a point where you are meeting the eligibility for the grant program, or have you already, based on the definition from the state, have you already established your business? So you could go back as far as I said, July 1st, 2019, getting a business license or registering with the state in cases where there's a LLC or a corporation registry required with the Secretary of State's office. And if neither of those two apply in your area, you have to at least file for a fictitious business name. That could have occurred as far back as July 1st, 2019. Anyone who's done those things prior is not eligible. Also, if you are operating a business, but yet not fully legal or haven't met the full definition that allows you to move forward for a grant, you must have 5 or fewer full-time equivalent W-2 employees and revenue less than $1 million last year. The next step, once we determine that a person is eligible, is to participate in one of our California Dream Fund training programs. In Central California Network, we currently, as of today, have about 65 people registered for the California Dream Fund program. Those have been persons who have gone through the vetting process and been deemed by us to be eligible to participate in the training program. We just launched our first general business cohort of 25 people yesterday. And so that's going, we will have our second cohort launching on May 18th. And so that will hopefully get most of the people that are currently on the wait list into the training program. And then we're going to start next week organizing cohorts 3 and 4, which will likely launch in early June. And cohort 4 at this point, we're hoping to provide in Spanish. I know it's requires some patience to say, gosh, I got to wait all the way till June to just start my training program. And the training programs are 6 weeks. For the general business program, it's 6 weeks long, total of 18 hours of training time, but a tremendous amount of information provided on how to successfully establish your business. In addition to completing the training program, the state of California requires that a simple business plan be completed. And that is following the template that is provided by Lindustry, which is the organization that's been contracted by the state of California to actually issue the grants, the California Dream Fund grants. And they have a very simple business plan template, and that must be completed and prior to receiving permission to apply for the grant. And so what the SBDC's role in this process is certify that the participant's eligible, provide the training, assist with the business plan, and that's all provided at no cost. And then whatever other documentation that's might be specific to the type of business that each participant is wanting to start. That could vary a little bit, but basically just help put the package of information together that Lindustry is going to require, so that when the participant is done with everything and they're ready to move forward and actually apply for the grant, they have all their information ready to go to make that process simpler and easier. So they must have a business bank account open when they apply. So there must be provide evidence that they have a business bank account open, because Lindustry will not cut checks. They only will deposit the grant funds into the business bank account that has been verified. And of course, like I said, all other documentation that's required. Once we have all that information, we issue a certification to the participant, CDF program participant, and that certification has a unique number, and that becomes their application number for Lindustry. That pretty much covers the eligibility. If you have any questions about whether you think you might be eligible, or you want, just want to talk to someone about eligibility, please email that email address that Kelly gave earlier, or go to our website, the centralcaliforniasbdc.com website, and go to resources, and there's a drop down there for clicking on more information about the California Dream Fund. But I think that's all I had to share today, Kelly. Is any questions popping up?
Well, we do have a question, and let me pull up a second. Let's look at this. See if I can pull up the business plan. So, can we go through the business plan
Sure.
for a little bit? Because it's a little bit different. I noticed when we were talking about it earlier, a lot of people, do a more more extensive and more professional. And, we've talked a lot about the use of live plan and the fact that this region has over 100 licenses that we allow our clients to utilize through live plan. And it's really, live plan is far more substantial than it looks like the industry is requesting and requiring through the official California Dream Plan business plan. So let's just take a couple minutes and go through the business plan template. So I will just kind of be the scroller and you will be the talker.
Sure. Yeah, the reason that we kind of migrated away from live plan, which I love and I think does a great job, is the state is requiring this business plan template be completed and submitted with the application. So I felt there's no reason to duplicate or make additional work for our clients. So let's just stick to what they require. And they just want a little information about the applicants. They can contact you. They want to know what type of legal form you think your business is going to take. And by the time you apply, you must be legally in business. You must have met all those requirements to be considered an in-business entity. And so you will have selected, by the time you submit this to Lindustry, whether you're a sole proprietor, LLC, a partnership, S or C Corp, or a B Corp, which is a nonprofit benefit corporation. Next is tell them a little bit about your business. What is it that you're really going to be doing? And so you want to just write a simple description in there. The business plan template will be provided once a person is deemed eligible and is assigned to a cohort. Remember, the cohorts are 6 weeks long. They will be given that template week 1, so they can start working on that. And they'll be assigned an SBDC advisor who will help them at no cost to complete the business plan. Description of the product or service just kind of gets a little bit more into what, tell us about your business, what makes the business unique, why will the business be successful. Again, this is all through the lens of where you're going to operate your business and through the background of what experiences you have. What type of license and permits will you need for your business? You should, by the time this business plan is completed, all of those questions should already be addressed and answered, because you, again, will need to be legally open for business in order to secure the funding through Lindustry. Where's your business located? Tell us a little bit about yourself as the owner or owners. What's your experience in business? Why do you want to start this business now? What's the reason for the timing? And again, there's no right or wrong answer. Just answer the question as best you can, and you will have times, 6 to 8 weeks from the time you start the training to when we would like you to be prepared to apply for your grant. So you have a couple of months to work with your business advisor to get these answers refined to the level where you're comfortable that you're ready to submit. Talk about the competition. That's always important in any business plan. Who are you competing against? Why do you think people would rather buy from you than your competition? How are you going to let people know your business exists? So the marketing strategies that are associated with your plan. Then how are you going to operate your business? What will be your role in the business? How many employees or contractors, hours of operation, things like that are all important. And then they want to know a little bit more about how you're going to spend the Dream Fund grant funding that you're going to receive. And you'll know when you write this whether you're eligible for a $5,000 grant or a $10,000 grant. And you'll be told that as you go through the class, based on your unique situation, which of the two funding levels you will be eligible for. So how are you going to use those funds? And they just want a simple use of funds spreadsheet completed. Personal funds, what are you contributing? How are the California Dream funds going to be spent? And what other funds? Are you going to get a loan? Is there family and friends that are going to invest in your business? Other dollars that are going to be used to start this business. And then a very simple kind of profit and loss projection or income statement that just says, how are you going to cash flow your business as it operates based on monies coming in through sales and net margin or net profit, gross profit, excuse me, and then the expenses to operate the business, and then what net profit would be left over to fund continued operations into the next month. And again, SBDC is very well versed. Our advisors know how to help people complete these types of projections. Okay, I want to address some of the questions. I saw a few questions pop up.
Before we get to the questions, I think we can answer some of those. Let's talk just a little bit more detail about the training itself.
Sure.
You use this funny word that I think is a funny word anyway, called cohort.
Yes.
And we're getting a lot of questions, I believe, along the on-demand or in live and in person. So I'll let you just go with the framework about the training and how the
Sure.
training is going to work.
Primarily, for the most part, the training is going to be delivered online. It'll be live. So there'll be an actual live, similar to what we're experiencing now, a live webinar environment. And with a instructor and a co-instructor. There's always, our intent is that there will always be two instructors with every session. And we'll be going through basic business startup curricula we are adapting from the SBA Money Smart Start Your Business program, which is an excellent curricula. And we've adapted it to our needs here in the Central California area and specifically to align with the requirements of the Dream Fund. Again, 6 weeks, don't want to get into too much detail, but each of the sessions will be an hour-and-a-half long. They will be recorded. In order to complete the training as required, you have to have perfect attendance. So you must attend live, or you must attend the recorded or listen to the recorded, watch the recorded session. There is a quiz every week, and those quizzes are made available through the platform. We're using Google Classroom as our training platform, and those quizzes must be completed within 2 weeks in order to move forward into the training program. So we're trying to keep it easy, flexible. You know, it's a simple quiz. We're not trying to trick you. We're just wanting to verify that a participant is really, reading or learning in the classroom. They're paying attention, moving through the program. And there is no wrong, well, there is a wrong answer, but there is an unlimited number of times a person can take the quiz. So basically, we just want to verify that you're learning the information.
So we talked about 12 sessions, and those are, I believe, an hour-and-a-half each.
There's actually 6 sessions. So 12, there's 12 different, that's where the 12 came from, was the GoBiz is requiring that we teach 12 business topics, but we've combined those into 2 topics per session. So six classes basically in the training program, and they're an hour-and-a-half long, and then there's an hour-and-a-half of mandatory homework each week. And most of that homework is watching very short, professionally well done, produced videos from the SBA. And those videos run anywhere from 1.5 to 6 or 7 minutes long. And then the other time is just spent working on your business plan.
Okay, great. Well, let's hit some of these questions.
Sure.
And let's start. I'll hit the ones that are specific. If we go into the chat, you'll see, as always, Maureen is very efficient in putting information about the Mono County grant, the Kern County microgrant program. So those are there. There's a question, who would I speak with regarding the assistance for the 3/4 payment this year? I believe that's regarding my earlier comments on the employee retention credit. So, that's something that you could either talk with an SBDC consultant. A lot of people now being tax time and haven't talked to their tax person was working directly with their tax professional on a topic like that, since it is a tax credit. If I am on the right page there with the 3/4 payment. So if I'm not, please clarify. Maureen has placed a link to the Central California Dream Fund program that Kurt mentioned, as far as where you can go to and find more information on the website. And here it says on the website, there was a comment about certain businesses being preferred. Are there any restrictions on which businesses can apply for this?
I don't want to say absolutely no, probably not. Again, it has to be a legal business. We get questions about, cannabis related businesses. Those are ineligible. There are some ineligibility types of business, or some types that are ineligible. That's probably best done on a one-on-one conversation, but the vast majority of what we would all understand to be typical businesses are eligible.
So I know that there's a preference toward some businesses that are in great need right now, like childcare providers.
Yep.
So I could see that there could be, maybe that could be a preference, and maybe I want to start a business where I'm doing dog grooming. Is that still permissible?
Absolutely. And yes, there is a preference by the state to try to reach as many people that are kind of historically underserved, and that is an emphasis, but it doesn't prohibit other persons from participating in the program or eventually getting a grant. And keep in mind, there is no guarantee of a grant if a person completes the training. It's absolutely Lindustry's process to determine whether the grant is approved or not. The SBDC does not approve or deny anyone from getting a grant.
Outstanding. Okay. Again, there's the email address for the CA SBDC at ucmerced.edu to get on the list and to get in there. Where do I find the California Dream Fund business plan template?
Yeah, I addressed that a little bit earlier. It's not, and we're not, and the reason we're not letting it out publicly is because it may change. The Lindustry portal has not been opened up yet, and the state of California, the last conversation I had with them last week was they are hoping to get the portal open by May 1st. And at that point, we will have all the official documents. So at this point, we've been provided with the business plan template, and we're probably 98% assured that this is going to be, but there could be some minor tweaks. So we don't want to release something and then someone, do work on it and then later find out it has some small changes to it. But the official answer about the business plan template is we are going to release that to persons that are participating in the program.
Excellent. Okay, so let's see, Bill asked, and you might have answered this, but let's go through it anyway. For
Sure.
the 6 weeks of training totaling 18 hours, are these one-on-one trainings or group Zoom trainings?
They are groups. Like right now, we have set a cap of the cohort at 25 persons. As we gain some experience and kind of refine our processes, we may open that up to more people. And of course, that also depends on how many are on the wait list, right? We don't want people on the wait list for a long period of time. So cohorts 3 and 4, we may open them up to 30, 35 people. We're just not sure yet. We're still want to make sure we deliver a quality product that doesn't, that just runs seamlessly and smoothly and everybody is satisfied with the process. So at this point, cohorts 1 and 2 will be capped at 25, probably going to open that up to a little bit larger group, 30 to 35 in cohorts 3 and 4.
And I believe this question you had mentioned earlier about how to get signed up, and that's that email address we've given.
Yes.
So we're getting
but I did notice the majority of people on this webinar were in business. So for those that are on the webinar that are, pre-business, certainly, let us know if you're interested and we will walk you through the eligibility. For those that have businesses, if you know people that are considering launching, we appreciate, as always, helping to get the word out about this program. And we want to help as many people as we possibly can get established on the right foot. Central California SBDC has funding allocated to us that would allow us to train and approve, or not approve, but help get to the application process for about 100 grants, roughly. It depends on how, the average size of those grants. So there are other programs throughout the state, but the general ground rules are you must work with an organization that is providing training in the same area where the business is going to operate. So someone let's say from San Diego could not participate in our Central California training program and get a grant from us. If they were going to start their business in San Diego, they would have to go through one of the CDF trainers that are operating in the San Diego area.
Good to note. Good to note. And looking at our questions, are there any grants for women-owned businesses starting a new business?
I'm not aware, other than the programs you talked about prior to the CDF. I'm not aware of any other grants specific to women, but there are lots of resources out there right now. Many of those are very localized. You mentioned, the Kern microgrant, other programs that are currently operating in cities and counties. But I'm not aware of any that are just for women or any other segment of population.
But there is this program that is available for women as well. So
absolutely.
Women, men, not a dog or a horse, but everybody. Yeah. And if you have an interest and you're not sure, it doesn't hurt to, contact us, and we'll walk you through the process and give you our best answer as determine whether you're likely eligible. We're happy to train you. If you really want to start a business, then the SBDC is here to help you learn what you need to learn, jump the hurdles, help you along the way, and get you started on the right foot. And again, our services are at no cost to you in terms of our training and counseling program. And Kurt, the last question I have is related to a business that might have started earlier. And I know that we have a very defined definition in the SBDC program on what is a business, a business that is in business, which sounds awfully redundant, but could you just clarify that from the standpoint? And let me just throw one out there for you. We worked with a business recently that actually had been in business, but by our SBDC definition was not in business because they didn't have all of their legal requirements and licenses in order to properly operate. They thought they were, but they did not have a California canneries license, which was needed for a very, very small food processor. So technically, from our SBDC definition, that was not a business that was in business because it wasn't fully licensed and qualified.
Right.
Could you comment on that and those requirements?
Yeah. So as it relates directly to the California Dream Fund, the key date is January 1, 2019. Anybody who started, their business prior to that, got their business license, generated sales, any of those trigger qualifying events. If they're prior to July 1, 2019, they're not going to be eligible for the grant. Anybody who is in the process of operating or intending to operate a business since that date, but maybe they think they're in business, but after meeting with the SBDC, they find out, wow, I never did get my food license, or, officially go to the county and get my cottage food, home-based business license. Those are things that could be the exact opportunity the CDF is designed to address, is helping them to understand this is a requirement. Let's help you go through the process to get that license or that certification, whatever it might be. And, oh, by the way, maybe you could get $5,000 to help offset the costs of getting that business up and running, or at least to the next level. Because technically you could have customers, you could have employees, but still be qualified for the CDF.
And what we'll do is we'll send out on our on-demand webinar this week, not only a copy of this fine recorded webinar, but also all those links that we talked about, and we'll include in there that definition, that SBDC definition of what is an in business entity. So, okay, I think that's about it. It sounds like an outstanding program, Kurt. California. I know we've been going through this, and it's a big undertaking starting this up. Thank you so much for doing that and joining us today.
You're
I know you
welcome.
got to run. I'm going to finish up a couple of things, but thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Kelly, and my best wishes and good luck to everyone who wants to launch their business. Talk to you soon.
Outstanding. Well, so we will have plenty more on that. Next week, we will have Mr. William Britton, who is Cal Poly's Vice President for Information Technology, just a true expert in the field of cybersecurity. We're talking Central California region here, and I don't know of anybody that has greater credentials for cybersecurity. And he's going to talk to us about what small businesses can do to get ready for cybersecurity next week. So that'll be next week. I just threw a few of these slides that we've been throwing together for the Dream Fund. We can actually throw these out in our definitions and our on demand. But this is really the one that we were talking about as far as what is the definition of a new business start and all of the necessary requirements to operate, but has also made their first sale or has hired. So you have to have all the necessary permits and licenses to legally operate. And then you have to have also, in addition to that, made a first sale, hired an employee, or created a banking relationship, or incurred a business expense. So that's your legal definition that we wanted to go through. The components have all changed, so we'll do that. Not going to get into the repurposing of SBA funds, but as we talked about $10 billion that went for COVID. There's a lot of publicity on this, the small business majority among organizations and many other in the print media, that were not too happy that a lot of the SBA programs were being repurposed for actual COVID purposes for 2022. And I know that there's no COVID-22, but anyway, this is 10 billion that's going to be spent in this calendar year that is going to be taking money away from SBA, other types of programs. So there are those repurposed programs. Get into this a little bit more later. I'm really hoping that part of that funding for the state small business credit initiative, which does contain 200 million in the state of California for venture capital, actually contains more money for the Dream Fund, because I think we're going to need more money. As this thing rolls, there's a lot of people that are really interested in doing things and really getting on with that particular task. So, and we talked a little bit about EIDL earlier. So that's about the last that I had to add. And we are out of time, or running out of time soon. We will be back next week for number 111. And we're going to be talking cybersecurity, a real issue for small businesses. I'm really excited to have this topic come up and to be talking about how our recovering small businesses can avoid the pitfalls of problems of cybersecurity risk and threats that are out there. So big thanks to Kurtis Clark for joining us today on the California Dream Fund program. We'll have more on that as we continue to roll out through the spring on these training programs that become available and opportunities to join that. Big thanks to Maureen as well. So for Kurt and Maureen, I'm Kelly Bearden. We'll be back next week. See everybody then. Bye-bye, everybody.